What's up, y'all, and welcome into the Jack Vita and Stephanie Mitchell Show.
Hey, hello there.
Very good, very good. Steph's here. I'm here. We're back to discuss the 6th episode of Deal or No Deal Island, Season 2. Of course, Stephanie finished in 3rd place on Season 1. We have her expert analysis and insights, and we're going to sink our teeth into a different episode this week. It was a little different from what we're used to with Deal or No Deal Island, some good, some bad. And we've got some special guests joining us in a second. Before we bring them in, just want to say, if you guys like this show, make sure you leave us a comment, hit the like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is that you get your podcasts. And then you can follow us on social media. I'm at Jack Vita Show. She is at Dr._midwife. Steph, what do we have lined up for today?
I'm so excited to hop into this conversation with the one and only Phillip and the one and only Seychelle from Deal or No Deal Island Season 2. They've been formidable opponents, so yay, welcome.
Hey, welcome in. Seychelle, Cordero, Phillip Solomon. Great to have you guys here.
Thank you so much for having us. It's so nice to speak and have somebody listen.
Heavy on it. I totally agree with that, Phillip. But yeah, so wonderful to be here. So wonderful to meet you both.
Thanks.
It's great having you guys here. We thought that this would be a great way to, with no exit interview this week, nobody got eliminated, big cliffhanger, we'll discuss it all. We thought, hey, let's try to see if we could get some thoughts from some other contestants that we haven't gotten a chance to speak to yet. And NBC was so kind to allow you guys to come on this program. We're excited to dig into everything today. So thank you again for being here.
Of course.
My pleasure.
All right, Steph, kick us off. Give us a good question for these guys.
We are starting off with episode 6, Power Grab. But before I jump into that, I always give it a second name of the episode. I think last week it was Dr. William. But anyway, Physician William, I think.
Physician William.
Physician William coming through. So if you guys had to rename this episode, it's called Power Grab, but what would you name this episode?
Yeah.
Okay. I think I would go with, based on how crazy it all gets, spiral ham. You know, a spiral ham in like a can? Because half of us are spiraling and the other half are going ham for no reason. So like,
I love it, Phillip. So episode 6, aka Spiral Ham. What about you? What do you think?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is Flop Central.
Beautiful. Oh, I love it. Okay. You actually had an epic drop. We can talk about that later. It was like gravity was not on your side. It gave you extra love. It gave you extra love, and you're so brave. Can we talk about that?
I damn near Tinkerbelled my ass off that ledge. It was totally pathetic. It was horrible. Would never want to do it again, but I did my best.
Well, we're on it now, so we got to discuss it. I mean, do you have any regrets about not, trying to get up there a second time and go for it?
You know what's crazy is what they didn't show is I went 2 times. I went my first time and I was just watching it, I was just like, this blows. Like, yep. I don't like heights. I love the water, but I could do like a cute, when you go on vacation and, like one time I jumped off like this sunken ship in the middle of the ocean and, I was hammered and I was just like, wah! Love that. That was fun. Once in a lifetime experience. And, I was blasted. So that was fun to me. So when I saw it, I'm just like, damn, this sucks. It's just the suspension of like having to take a running leap. I was just like, ooh, yeah. Like when I tell you guys, I wasn't only picturing the Corderos up there. I was picturing all of the most wonderful things in the world that I love and want. I was picturing $200 million. I was picturing Birkins laid out. And I was like, girl, if you get you a ring, this is all going to be yours. And I was just like, I guess not in this lifetime. I didn't want to do it, you guys. It was absolutely disgusting. It was a horrible feeling, and no regrets.
I love that.
So here are some things you might not have seen or couldn't conceptualize and getting to watch it in the episode. When you watch that big pyramid in the water in excursion number 1, episode 1, the jump was higher than that because it was still next to us in the water. So the jump was higher than that. And everyone knows from like interview number 1, 2 things I'm deathly afraid of: water and height. I don't swim, I don't do height. And so for me, I was like, oh, this is my worst nightmare. Like, this is absolutely it. And so what you guys don't see is we walk onto like the dock. We see the rings. Everyone's like, oh no, they turn back to me, tears, bawling. Everyone's like, oh, okay. Yep,
Valid.
he's going to, I am a disaster. And I was like, I can't do this. But upside, the only thing for me that is a greater motivator than being scared of something and not doing it is being competitive. And I was like, well, if we want to win, I guess we're gonna have to figure out whatever it is. So quick shout out to the Austin Swim School for 3 weeks of swim lessons before I left for the island. And I was like, okay, I'm going on an adventure. I can't tell you where, but I need to learn how to swim. So they taught me how to just not drown immediately. And so that is thing number 1. Thing number 2, the actual runway that you had to run before jumping off to grab the ring. It was only about 4 to 5 feet. I ran it this morning in my parking garage like a weirdo that I was like, it was about the length of a parking spot. It was not a lot. And so you
can't rev up. You can't like grab up high speed.
Not like preheat the oven. It just went right to like air fry, just jump and go. And so, yeah, there was no room, no space. There wasn't any of that.
I saw that. Seychelle, especially as you did that run up, it was like, that wasn't enough runway.
Heavy on the never mind. I even saw me grab. It's just so damn dumb. It's so stupid. But like Phillip said, there was absolutely really nothing to even get you to get a good sprint going.
Yeah, well, you gave yourself good words of encouragement, and actually, I don't take that scene as any sort of weakness or anything. That sort of raw emotion that your body is physically doing at this time is otherworldly. So you did great. You did great. There was huge stakes, and Phillip, you lucked out getting to go first. I think that was great. What were you thinking when we heard a little bit about when you grabbed that chip, and you said you didn't really think through the second part of it. Talk us through that.
So I am scared. I say out loud before we pick anything. Literally, my boy Joe is looking at me, tears running down my face, and he's like, okay, what's your like best case scenario? And I was like, to go number 1. If I see someone else, I'm gonna be even more scared of it. So I was like, I need to go number 1. And he was like, I'm hoping for you, pulling for you, pulls out my name. Promise you that was not staged in any way. I like you even see me react and be like, oh, word? Oh, it's like actually me. Okay, cool. So on the way up the ladder, I'm still scared of the water, the height, or whatever else. And then he goes, who are you gonna try and save? And I was like, what do you mean? I like forgot the whole game. I was like, what do you know? Oh, I don't know, because while everyone else was talking to one another and trying to come up with like a plan, I was too busy crying. And so I never got to come up with a who would I save. And so you literally see me like emotionally scamper. And I'm like, well, I could have gone home last night, but Letty didn't let me. So I guess I'll grab it for her. And like, it was just the easiest thing that I was like, that to me, I could defend it in a court of law and being like, you helped me, so I'll help you. And that was it. But 100%. I did not go into it with a plan. And I kind of forgot to plan until he asked me for who. And I was like, oh, a name. I didn't think that through at all. So I did everything else after it.
You worked
quick. Phillip, was Parvati onto something when she said that you're not much of a strategic player?
I think as you saw in episode 6, I love being underestimated. I think if there is anything about me, I'm going to say, number 1, I'm afraid of heights, I'm afraid of water, and you're going to give me a challenge with heights and water, and I'm going to say, okay, cool, great. I'm going to go number 1, and I'm going to be number 1. So point blank, period. That's what it is.
Love that. I love that. I thought the same thing, Jack, and you and I are on the same wavelength because I was like, not strategist, not Phillip. Like, what do you
Yeah.
mean? I just see your brain working, and that was really fast to be put on the spot and make a decision.
We
So,
discussed it last week, and when we saw the kind of continuation, it was a really weird episode because
mhm,
we got under 10 minutes of like camp life and discussions and
yeah.
talking, and so there's so much that we don't know. We did
Mhm.
see your confrontation with Parvati. Thoughts, comments, any context you want to add to that?
Ooh. I want to talk a little bit about it. Then I actually want to hand it over to Seychelle because I think that I'm almost too close to the situation to give you an objective viewpoint. So I want to know what you thought in getting to watch it as a viewer and as a player who was there. Because immediately after that interaction, I went back inside and I told her. And I was like, so listen, here's what happened. Am I insane? I think that what a lot of people don't really understand is when you put these reality celebrities in a situation like this against, for lack of a better term, the civilians, they have a physical advantage in knowing that they have done challenges and done things and jumped off of things and whatever else. Okay, cool. They also have an unspoken emotional advantage that the civilians don't have. And here's what I mean by that.
Yeah.
Harvey and I had a really good conversation on the way to an excursion. Cameras were down. I was like, here's who I am, where I come from, so on and so forth. Anytime you see me talk about bullying or my childhood or whatever else, that is in a confessional. It's just me and her. So me and her never actually discussed it on camera in front of other people. And so she saw a camera there and was like, how can I use this? What can I do here just to get leverage against Dr. Will of being like, you know what? I want you to work with me, but just to make sure that man is just like those kids that made your life hell in middle school. Okay, bye. What? Now,
Slow down.
if we're traitors and it was all reality celebrities or whatever else, water under the bridge. You know it's not a big deal. And even in looking at it right now, people have said worse things to me. I've said worse things to myself. I understand it. But at the time, that shook me to my core because we are not, as civilians, emotionally prepared for people to just throw things at us like that and walk away and be like, should we have eggs? And like be completely like, okay, and chill. And like that for me, it didn't sit well with me. You can literally see the expression on my face drop in that moment immediately.
Yeah.
Honestly, seeing that, Will said it best. Island Karen vibes.
Ooh, let me write that down.
Right. Will said it best. Cause audacity.
Oh.
Right. Phillip had said in his confessional, like, you went solo and you didn't have to. There was no reins for that. Totally and completely unnecessary. So yeah, that's how I feel about that.
I love that. I mean, I did write down, because I love to write down some of the things you guys say, that it was weaponized, that she weaponized your trauma. So that's interesting to hear you speak on that. And you viewed it I think I viewed it the same way, probably. It was interesting. But that goes to show you also a little bit that this is an episode that really talked about boundaries, about lying, about cheating, about morality. There's an underlying theme here. And so, I just saw that in many times. Even Will, I think he talked about, being exceedingly knowledgeable in these games. And even last week, he spoke about that. And you are touching on that now also, that where are the lines in the sand? Is it okay to cheat and look in the box? Is it okay to purposely jump for a ring the way Dr. Will should have jumped for you and he missed that ring? He missed that ring. And I was so upset. But that's part of the
ring.
I knew. I mean, anyway, where is the line in the sand for you, Say?
I gotta keep it a buck with you. I always say this, and I really do stand by it. I am trash, okay? But the type of trash that I am an Upper East Side woman in Manhattan's straight trash. That the civilians walk past and they look at the bags and they're like, "You're getting rid of this?"
Okay.
This magnificent trash. That's the type of garbage I am. Okay.
Oh,
In this game, if I'm a phenomenal manipulator. I'm a great liar. So
okay.
I know that that's what I would do really well in, right? Like there are so many people on this island
Mm-hmm.
that were like, you are so blunt and you say what's on your mind that it's like I know you ain't no liar.
It's
You know what
risky.
I'm saying? Like even when David said in the episode, like, okay, like she called everybody else out, but that plan was nobody else's but Will's. I love
Mm-hmm.
that. That's what I'm
Mm-hmm.
very good at.
Mm-hmm.
So I know with going on this island, I'm like, I know, the only physical threat I am on the island is my lethal face card. But other than that, no. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna lie my ass off. Because that's what I'm
Okay.
good at.
So they were lines in the sand, but sometimes in this sort of game, it's like we're not going to church together. We're actually in
Exactly.
a competition for
Right.
millions of dollars potentially.
Right.
So in the instance, Parvati may have weaponized your trauma, and Dr. Will cheats plenty of times. We see CK, and I use that word lightly. I don't want to say we see. I don't want to say cheat for Dr. William, but you understand. And then in this episode, we see CK looking in the box. Do you think that's different? Do you think that's a different sort of not okayness?
I think it's not okay because she looks like a royal cornball. You know
Oh,
what I'm saying? Because how are you? Yeah, because how are you looking inside of the damn box to pick names? At least I would say if you're gonna choose a cute cheat to try and get away with, pick another challenge. How are you gonna try to pull a name out the damn box when Joe is looking at you? I just
oh,
think she looks corny.
Oh, you want to talk about other challenges because I'm going to give you some
Oh,
quick
right. Go ahead.
iced
Go
tea.
on.
I'm
Go
going to
on.
give you
Go
some
on.
quick iced tea real quick. I can't go into a lot of detail, but what I can say is this is not the first time this player was caught with some shady business and everyone else had to get involved. That's what I'll say. And so when you're wondering why all of us are so activated, it's because
mhm.
we've seen it happen before. On
Oh
this very much on this adventure that we're on right now, it has happened prior to this. And so in turn, just because now, what actually, like, I'm going to give you like a play-by-play. What
Mhm.
CK thought was going to happen is Letty was going to pull for her. She was going to pull for her. Like, if they had already worked it out. What happened is that I went up number one and screwed that all up. So I think instead, like, Letty was going to pull for CK. CK was going to pull for her. But I said Letty's name, and without any discussion with Letty in the least. That was not a plan. I just said her name because it was the only one that I
Absolutely.
right. So then
Lovely.
I pulled hers. She was like, I guess I need to pull for him now. And CK's head started to spin all the way around. And she was like, but like, you understand that he picked me, so it would only be right for me to pick him back. Like, and then she was like, I can't trust you. I can't this, I can't that. And Letty was like, I'll take care of you. And how that went is CK then said, okay, prove it. And put her hand in the box.
Oh,
Wait for it. And then Letty was like, she's cheating. And Joe was like, I saw it too. Everyone's in on it. It's a whole mess. And I tried. I don't know if they're going to air this, tried to speak up. And I said, guys, because we were all so far away, I said, guys, she didn't cheat. And she said, as I'm saying it, as it's coming out of my mouth, she goes, well, technically, I did feel around on the coins to see how many letters the name had in it, and Letty's name is the only name that had 4 letters. And I was like,
okay.
oh, okay. You know what? I'm not gonna defend this anymore because you are telling on yourself, so I'm good. And the only reason that I bring that up is because we cannot sit here for an entire episode, 42 minutes with commercial breaks. You're not going to give me commercial breaks for Greek yogurt and all this other stuff while you're talking about integrity for an hour when you're like, that's not the type of person I am. Yes, it is. And
But it is. Wow.
fool me once, that's not the type of person you are. Fool me 3 times, I'm like, that's your brand now. Now this is who you are. And so if you're wondering why everyone is so like activated, that's why, because you've proven time and time again that you are a spam email of a person.
Wow.
Very
Seychelle,
confusing.
what's your take on that? That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Phillip is not fibbing in anything at all that he's saying.
Okay.
Yeah, totally back him up on that.
Very confusing week for CK watching this episode. Again, this is where I think it'd be nice if we got a little more airtime of the conversations that are happening at camp and where all these bonds are. Because this is the first time that I've seen CK and Letty have a conversation on the show, I'm pretty sure. Aside from the group, you know, you guys are forming a plan. So now all of a sudden they're telling us these guys are really close. I'm like, okay, interesting. We didn't see that for 5 weeks, but they're really close. Now she's heartbroken. They're having this tearful conversation. Letty sees enough in that conversation to put CK up and trusting her, it seems. CK goes rogue to the other side, blows everything up. What am I missing here? Like, fill in the blanks for me if you guys can.
I gotta keep it a buck. CK got a little taste of our alliance because for the hammock challenge, for the hammock challenge where we had to fall, I just figured, okay, like instead of getting rid of her, she's obnoxious and nobody really trusts her anyways. It was something that, you know, that at least I had said in all of my confessionals, like, in a way, it's like she's kind of a shield, and Dr. Will hates her. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Perfect.
So you know, it's always a potential for, you know, for her to get out. And I knew that she was extremely emotional. She was always constantly spiraling. So in developing that plan, that was probably the first time where I think for the first time she even realized where Letty's tent was.
Wow.
This is 100%, and I will be completely transparent and honest in saying that. It wasn't the lack of camera time that they got. It's simply because I really believe that CK found out that Letty was chilling in tent 1. That's where she slept. And she was on some like, oh, like, I can trust Letty. But the entire time Letty is on some like, you know, we hooked you up last week, but let's play the long game.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, let's keep it together. So I wouldn't even say that it's just that they didn't get a lot of camera time together, because they didn't have a lot of camera time together.
And I'm going to agree with you completely, Jack. I have some insight on that as someone who was there. The spiral was as erratic as it looked on TV.
Okay.
We were just as confused when.
Good.
So what happens is, like, we have this big cheating scandal. She's in the bottom, and then we get back to camp, and then spiraling and crying and going to Parvati. And like, you can see Parvati's just as confused as our side is. We're like, who hurt you? What's happening right now? And she was like, I just figured out I can't trust anybody. How?
See,
When did that happen? You read the situation incorrectly, cheated, admitted to cheating, and then got back and said, I can't trust anybody. What? I don't know. I don't know how that happened.
In that moment, I just want to say that, like, this is where understanding and knowing strategy is super important in this game. Parvati correctly identifies that she must save Will as a strategy, because you don't want to put him in a power position of being able to play the banker. He's not scared of the banker. He's happy to play the banker. He wants to play the banker because he's going to take out your whole little alliance. But CK, who should actually be in a pretty fair to safe position with Dr. Will at this moment, she can't even see the strategy for what it is. Instead, she takes it as a spiral and starts, girl, this would have been a perfect position to just sit down and be quiet, personally. But did you see it like that?
I did. I saw it the way that you're seeing it, Stephanie. Like, even when I'm there, and even when Letty's on time, I'm gonna jump for David. I'm just like, this is a day by day thing. In the morning, we talking about this one. In the afternoon, we talking about this one. Then we found out that those people ain't even at the bottom. So then we got to come back to camp. We got to reevaluate and assess the situation. Constantly is changing. So for her to sit there, even before cameras were on, you know, we're getting ready, we're lining up right there for the ring. She comes over to me. She was like, I gave you my immunity, so you need to jump for me at the ring. And I said, you're not doing that. I'm not going back and forth with you. I was like, I'm not going back and forth with you, CK. I'm not doing this with you. I'm not going to do it with you. You gave me immunity. I kept you safe. You know what I'm saying? I kept you safe. So we Gucci now. Let's just live out the day. Right.
She tried to be too controlling, I think, of the situation.
Of course. Like, yes, like, even the type of person that I am, I'm just like, you know, whatever comes to mind, I typically say it. But I'm like, I can't be the Seychelle that I would be with my homegirls on this damn island, because they were like, oh, Seychelle talk too damn much. She's confrontational. We got to get her out. There are certain times when you need to stay cute and be quiet.
And this was one of them.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think throughout this experience, even in going back to episode 1, 2, or whatever else, CK says, I'm really good with numbers, but I don't want to let them know that. And as an audience member, you're like, okay. And she's like, let me tell you about some numbers. And you're like, what? But you just said you weren't gonna, like, she can't restrain herself.
Mm-hmm.
And she like has to jump in there. And I think that her downfall in this episode, her downfall in like the game, is just the inability to really use that restraint and that trust of others, that I was like, you would have been good, but you chose violence instead. So for me, in just kind of moving us ahead, you decide to go to Parvati and blow it all up, and Parvati, rightfully so, I will never hate on her for this, was like, you should, because any good person, right, that you're like, you know what? Yes, blow it up. Cool, great, easy. But I don't understand in the long game of her saying, okay, I'm going to blow this up. Then who are you going to work with after? Is it the half that you screwed over initially to work with that half, or the half that you're just screwing over right now that isn't going to want to work with you either? So for me, I was like, that's such an isolating move in the game, because then there's no one for you to work with afterwards.
So I'm curious to know, how involved were you guys in the conversations with Letty about who plays the banker this week?
I was very, very cool with Letty. So I was talking to her about it, and I will be honest, I felt totally fine. I do believe in, with games, with reality competition games as such, like, if there are certain times where you really do feel extremely safe, like, why go balls to the wall? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not necessary you know what I'm saying? Like, there could be at least cute one little challenge where you're just like, all right, well, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. You know what I'm saying? So so I was talking to her, and she was asking me, she's like, would you want to play? And I'm like, I don't really feel like I need to. I don't want to. Like, again, I've said it before, like, I would love to pull a Jordan, right? Make it all the way to the end and not even have to play, and just be like, hey.
Yes,
love that,
girl.
right?
Yes.
Would love that. So I'm just like, nah. I'm like, CK's, spiraling. And another thing that you guys didn't see too is that her and Dixon kind of went at it a bit at that ring challenge. Like, they were heavy on some, like, if I'm up, I'm taking you out. If I'm up, I'm taking you out.
Wow. Yes.
Yes.
Because you're right. CK chose Dixon at first, got a low value from platform 2, and then secured that case. So there had to have been something.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, there was a lot of animosity there at that point, and how it was explained to us. I like to take people at face value, even though I feel like I'm always thinking about their intention. I'm still like, what are you saying to me right now? She said to us, I cheated, I screwed up. I deserve to go in tonight and play and at least have a 50-50 shot of heading home. And in our heads, in knowing that, like, we are all rational, play by the rules people, we were like, okay, that makes sense. Like, if the show is not gonna punish you and make you play, then if you're gonna volunteer to play, okay, cool, great.
Well, you're thinking like, well, what is the best move for her? And it seems that the best move for her would be to take Dixon out at that time and just keep kind of working with you guys. So I think that's kind of where you guys were probably coming from, is like, well, rationally, this is what would make sense if this happened. So, like, yeah, this is cool.
Yes, we were dealing with other rational, level-headed people and discussing a subject topic person that was not rational, level-headed. So that was our mistake, our bad, if you will.
So we've only got a few more minutes here with you guys, so I'm going to give you a few more things. We talk about Dixon. We had this debate a couple weeks ago on this podcast. Did Dixon make a good move or a bad move? What'd you guys think? Was that, when he took out Storm, did that create a bigger target on his back? Or was it there anyways, really?
It was there because he had told every single living being on that island. I'm talking about even the hermit crabs and the fish. Joe's dog. Bottom 2.
Bubbles.
Bottom 2. Yeah, Bubbles. Bubbles, me and you, bottom 2. So he already had the target on his back. But when he took out Stormy Pants, oh my gosh, I really got emotional that temple because you could never expect it. And you know, Storm was a part of our alliance, and I was like, "Bitch, I can't cry because then they gonna know that we working together." But yeah, I think he already had a target on his back, but that definitely made it larger.
Again, I think that was another decision that benefited the short-term game, but
Yeah.
I don't think that benefited his long-term game. What I will say though, as again an objective reality TV viewer that just happens to be like in the game, after that happened, the game turned up. I think we can all admit that every episode after you're like pandemonium every time, every single time. So I can't hate on him that much because it woke the rest of us up and we were like, oh, if you want to play, that's fine.
Okay, very interesting. What can you tell us about last night's temple from what has happened up to this point? Obviously, we don't want to give anything away for next week, but based on everything that has happened up to this point, what can you guys tell us about that temple?
That temple was hot. Temperatures were high, both physically and emotionally. For me, probably spiritually, I don't even know. I'm gonna say this right now. At that point, I also want to throw this into the universe. CK, Seychelle, and I had a conversation on day 2 on the island of being like, listen, as people of color, we need to look out for one another. And I don't even mean like the final 2 or whatever else, of just being like, listen, no matter what we say and do, it's going to appear extra angry, extra unhinged, extra everything. So like if you speak to any person of color, we mind our P's and Q's when necessary. We like make sure we're always very well spoken and eloquent and this and that because we're always in certain situations where people want to make us out to be aggressive or extra or whatever else. And the 3 of us sat in that water and talked about it, and she still saw me go there that night and not say a word. And I'm like, you know what, listen, keep it on mute. Don't talk. Just hold it together until the end. If you want to talk to her one-on-one, that's fine. And she saw it and she poked the bear, and you're watching her and Parvati poke and be like, it looks like you have something to say. Do you have something to say or whatever else? And the thing is, thought she was the ringmaster of the circus, but I came to let her know to grab the popcorn because she's simply a clown, point blank, period.
Big red nose, doofy shoes.
I can appreciate that perspective so well, Phillip. So thank you for bringing that to light. That is such important background information.
Steph, did you feel any of that pressure as a person of color on season 1?
No, I didn't feel, I had no idea at that time that I would be portrayed using segments of my personality to build a story of someone who's at baseline aggressive. I still see the comments to this day and I'm like, aggressive may be in one of the descriptors that you could use to describe me at certain times, but I'm also smart. I'm also funny. I'm also talented. I'm also friendly. I'm also kind. And so I wasn't expecting that. And so it's interesting to see. It really let me know an inside view of like, you know, how things could be portrayed. It was a wake up call. And like, I'm not ashamed by anything that I said or how things were portrayed, even if it was a segment. You got to see that segment. And Phillip, I was very proud of how you handled yourself because you don't owe her decorum. Okay.
Right.
So it is what it is. People get to see that piece of Phillip and we love that piece of Phillip. And so say, I look forward to you popping off too. If it dictates, don't hold back. That's why you guys are on this show, is because we appreciate you. That's why you were cast. We appreciate you for the personalities and people that you are. So thank you for sharing that with us. That was very nice.
It means the world, the amount of like support and positive messages that I've gotten after, because everyone's really watching me hold back and restrain myself so bad.
I have it.
You get to the point where you're like, not today, not on Black History Month. Absolutely not. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I won't do it. And so Harriet somewhere is mad at me. I know the sound is mad today. And for that, I'm sorry. I am sorry.
No.
Anything else from this episode that you guys wanted to discuss or weigh in on or share some thoughts on?
I don't know. I will say that I think if the show is missing anything, I just want all the viewers to really see the relationships that are being formed. It wasn't really until the show started to like air and people were kind of following us on social media and stuff. Hazel and I are close. We speak like every day, but you don't get to see a lot of it when we're there. So I wish there was more of the like stupidity at breakfast or like how we woke up every morning and stuff like that. Like we were working out and hanging out, and like I will say, this group of strangers and misfits are the most interesting group of people I have ever had the pleasure of knowing in my entire life. Love them or hate them, I learned so much, and this experience has been absolutely life-changing, life-altering, and I will cherish it forever and ever.
Oh, that's really sweet. That is so nice. And I just love that for you guys because it's a very unique set of circumstances that everyone isn't going to be able to understand, and especially the behind the scene aspects. I'm sure, some people will go on and continue to be in each other's lives forever. I know I have an entire family. I have little, nephews now, newborn babies. Like it's family. So it's so glad to see you guys. And I love watching you guys together. You guys do awesome.
Different kind of family from season 2.
We would never do that. They're borderline incestuous. I don't love it. No.
We walked in hot for season 2.
I'm proud of
y'all. Something else I'd love to know is we made mention of it before we brought you guys on. Is we've enjoyed both of you on this season because we feel like you guys are really playing hard, and that's what we like to see. Like, Dixon, we appreciate Dixon. Like, even though we thought that maybe it wasn't the best move, he's playing hard. He's got a strategy to it. We want to see people playing hard and making moves and doing stuff. So I'm curious how much reality TV each of you had watched. Are either of you a fan of Survivor or Big Brother? We'll start with you, Seychelle.
I do like Survivor. I started binge watching Survivor during the pandemic. Love that. But I love reality TV, like stuff that's tea. Like I love Read Queens. I love them. Like I just love the pure entertainment of watching somebody really be themselves, and you're just like, it's unscripted, but you fall in love like with these people. Like I've always loved, people like Tiffany Pollard, New York. Like I love Nene Leakes. Like I love Phaedra Parks. Like I love those women. So to see them on reality TV and they're just, reading people to filth, I'm just like, I live for it. I live for it. Like I love stuff like that. And I think that's the thing with this show as well. I'm like, sheesh, like I don't want to live in the damn jungles. I don't want to live in the jungle, you know what I'm saying? But I'm like, I'm gonna just unapologetically be myself. And people that get it will get it, and people that don't. So yeah, that's how I feel about that.
I think for me, I do watch Survivor, Big Brother. I go all the way back to like the real world. Like I go I will watch any show, even if I'm not enjoying it. I want to see till the end, mostly because I am always so grounded in psychology and sociology. I love the idea of someone like Luke meeting someone like Seychelle, where you're like, this would not happen in any situation. But I love the idea of these people from different backgrounds and cultures and from all over having to work together. And sometimes it works and sometimes it does not work. But I think at the end of it, and it really does help explain my strategy in the game, I love people and I love relationships, and I learn about myself through getting to learn about others.
Phillip and I are similar. Wow.
Yeah.
That's the thing for me. I love the relationships and just seeing people that shouldn't really be interacting, but they are, and now they've got to build this new community together. So hopefully we can get more of those kind of scenes in future weeks of the show. Guys, we really appreciate you being here. And I'm certain I'll be talking to each of you at some point again. Hopefully for your own sake.
Hopefully not too soon.
Not soon. Not soon for your guys' sake. Why don't you throw out your social media handles so people can follow you, and if there's anything else you want to plug or promote, Seychelle, you can go ahead.
Okay. So I'm on TikTok. You can find me at Seysey, Seysey. I post TikToks with me and my beautiful girlfriend, and we do really, really nice and well over there.
Nice.
You can also find me on Instagram, SEDUISANTX. And I have a podcast with my best friends. It's called If You Don't Love It, You a Liar on YouTube.
Oh,
I listen. I love it. I mean, if you love it, that's fine.
I know I will.
Right? You can hit me up on Instagram or TikTok, P Solomon 12, all O's, SOLOMON 12. I've been getting a lot of really amazing DMs and messages from just like mothers of middle schoolers that are going through a rough time, a tough time, or whatever else. So please reach out, connect. I was in the classroom for 12 years. Even though you leave the classroom, it never truly leaves who you are. So like, I am happy to work with you, talk you through whatever it is. You can find us both on Cameo as well if you want like an inspirational pep talk or someone to read you to filth. Either way, you get me and Seychelle. We're there, ready to party.
Well, thank you so much, guys. Seychelle, thanks for cleaning up the language for us as best you can. We appreciate it.
I did a pretty good job.
You did a good job. Yes, we know you can just let them fly. So you did a good job, guys. Thanks again, and we'll talk to you hopefully not too soon.
All right, have an awesome day, guys.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Well, Steph, how about that? Seychelle and Phillip. That was great. Wasn't that fun?
That was so much fun. Love hearing their insight.
We appreciate them being here. Phillip has been posting a lot of our clips. I know he's been listening to our show each week, so I think he was excited to come on here, and we appreciate that. It was great. It was fun having him here, and we appreciate the game. They're playing out there. We like it.
Yeah, they're going hard. I'm enjoying it so much. There's a lot to strategy to break down on this episode. Is there anything that you were thinking like outright, like, oh, immediately you had thoughts on?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there was a lot of just the thing that was probably the thing that stuck out the most to me was the fact that there wasn't really, it doesn't seem like there was missing information from the CK thing. They were all shocked by it. Because I'm like, there's something we're not being shown here. And I still think there probably was stuff that we could have seen that would have made more sense, whether it be CK explaining things a little more in her confessionals, but that it was a very weird week. I'm going to take this in a separate direction for a second here. This was not a good episode. This was like the worst episode of Deal or No. I will say this definitively, in the 2 seasons, this was the worst episode of Deal or No Deal Island.
Oh, what made it get into that category, Jack? What brought it there for you?
All right, so first of all, I got 2 things here. One is the cliffhanger. I don't like cliffhangers. Now, I do think there's a way in which cliffhangers can be used on shows. So let's say we got an elimination and then we start moving into like kind of what's going to happen next week. So let's say they go back and now all of a sudden there's a source of conflict and it ends on a cliffhanger there. That's like, ooh, that's good. That's suspenseful. But every single reality TV episode should have an outcome. There should be an outcome in each episode.
Yes.
There should always be, in Deal or No Deal Island, there should always be a game. I mean, there should always be a challenge. There should always be someone playing the banker, and then someone goes home. That should be every single episode, and it just seems like a waste of time when you don't do that. So, with that said, that's the first thing. Cliffhangers, to me, indicate that you don't trust that the audience is going to keep watching. You do that when you're concerned, and the ratings have been going down. I mean, the ratings are about 1 million down from where they started the season with. They started the season with essentially what the viewership was last season, so it was like 2.7 million for the premiere, and now we're hovering around 1.7, 1.8. So never a good sign to me when shows do cliffhangers.
Oh, wow. Okay. I would probably tend to agree on the cliffhanger. I do see some competitive reality shows ending in a cliffhanger, and that's probably to get the audience again to come back. I don't love it. I don't like waiting a week to know what's going on. And it's not like the most important piece it's just a quick little segment of, who's going to leave. Is it going to be CK? Is it going to be somebody else? that's going to be quick and done within the first 60 seconds of the next episode. So that wasn't a good part for a cliffhanger. Agree.
Well, I think last season, Brooke and I spotted it from a mile away, leading into the finale, that
Oh, yeah.
Rob was not going to be the one emerging from the maze. He was going to be the last person. He was going to be eliminated. And my thought was, they're doing this because if Rob goes out at the end of the penultimate episode, they're concerned that they're going to lose a lot of viewers for the finale. Rob obviously brought in a lot of viewers, carried a lot of viewership, and they were concerned that, you know, they thought, okay, well, we need to have Rob in the finale, even if he's only there for 5 minutes, we'll stretch this out. So while I didn't love the cliffhanger, it made sense in that regard. Even though I don't like it as a viewer, it makes sense. In this case, I don't really think it makes sense because CK, I don't think the audience is that invested in CK.
Yeah, just show us what happened.
Yeah, so like, and we don't even have an idea of who she's going to take out either. So like, this would maybe make sense if it's like Will's playing the banker, and if he loses, he's out, and if he wins, he's taking Parvati out. That would be a spot for a cliffhanger. You're like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? I don't know. This is crazy. Instead, we don't know what is going on with CK. She's been all over the place, and I just don't think the audience cares that much. So in actuality, I think that this has the potential to do the opposite effect, because we look at social media, we're plugged into what the fans are thinking. Fans were not happy last night. There was a lot of negative, and there were a lot of people that are like, I'm done with this show.
Oh, that's too bad. I mean, so from like a production standpoint, I totally get it. Was there anything that, like, game wise, I have a thing that's going to end up on my list that really made this episode snag the title of worst of the season?
So first, it's the cliffhanger. The second thing was our time distribution. So I actually tracked it because I've seen this episode now 3 times. We normally watch these episodes a few times to get prepared. We want to know it. We get our screener early in the week, so then we watch it right away. And then I tend to watch it when it airs, and then I'll probably watch it the next morning again. So I watched it this morning. So I've seen it 3 times. And the second time, when I'm watching it with the commercials, it was a slog. It really just kind of dragged on. It felt like it was going on too long. And then this morning I thought about, well, why was that? So I'm going to keep a log of how we're distributing our time. And keep in mind what Phillip was talking about. Part of what I'm drawn to with reality TV is the relationships, the people bonding, seeing people living together. And that will lend itself to not just gameplay, but also human interaction, the sociology, the psychology that Phillip was discussing. That's why I'm like, oh man, we're really similar, Phillip.
Yeah.
So the first 2 minutes are last week on Deal or No Deal Island, and then tonight on Deal or No Deal Island. So that took up 2 minutes. Then we got 5 minutes of camp life, and I thought that was the best 5 minutes of the show. I thought that was really, really good stuff. The best interaction of the week was the Will and David scene.
Yes.
Wasn't that great?
I loved it. That was one of the highlights for me, which is what ultimately saved this episode for me, is that sort of gaming strategy interaction between the protagonists. So that's what really saved it from not landing on that list. But yeah.
I love it when this happens in movies where you've got like a hero and a villain who run into each other and they have a casual conversation where they're not trying to kill each other in that moment, but they're talking some smack. One of the scenes that comes to mind, and I'm a fan of some of these mob movies. I'm part Italian, part Irish as well. In The Departed with Jack Nicholson, where there's a scene where he runs into Martin Sheen, and I think Martin Sheen is also with Marky Mark Wahlberg, and then they're having a conversation about, like, you know, because they each have a rat in the other unit, and I love those kind of conversations. That was what this was like. Will is so casually just drinking his coffee. He's like smiling a little bit. He's provoking David, but it also seemed somewhat friendly. Like, it didn't seem totally like mean spirited. It was like he's poking and prodding a little bit, but it's just like just a scene of two people who are experienced with reality TV and know how to make good
Yes.
TV. And yet it was still genuine and sincere. It wasn't put upon and
Aggressive.
fake.
Right. It wasn't aggressive. It wasn't put on. It was like Will recognizing the strength in David. And I really stood in juxtaposition of how David was feeling at the beginning of the episode, where he, he was sad to have lost MG. He has a moment of guilt about being the golden god. He expresses this to Parvati. He has an existential crisis, he says. To the very next morning, him having to rethink it. He was like, I'm glad I was sleeping. I was just tired. I needed a nap, because then Dr. Will comes to him and just frankly identifies that he has a skill and correctly identifies him as a Survivor winner. I don't know. That threw me for a loop. What was your take on that? I was like, how
So
that good? Is Dr. Will
so
that good?
one thing about David, and someone was asking me the other day, because they know that I watch a lot of reality TV, obviously. And they're like, so you know who Dr. Will was? You know who Parvati was? I'm like, oh yeah, of course. Like, and I didn't see Dr. Will's Big Brother seasons, but I'm aware of Dr. Will. I've
Yeah.
seen Dr. Will. I at least know who he is. I'd recognize him. It's like, do you know who David is? And I'm like, I've got no idea.
No idea.
I've seen. The thing is with the Australian Survivor fan base that comes from America is you have to think about. So Survivor's the biggest reality competition show, just biggest reality show. And, I don't know what their viewership is right now. I'm guessing it's probably somewhere between 5 and 8 million viewers each week. Not that long ago it was 10 viewers, but things are changing in this new TV landscape. That's a lot. That's really a lot for 2025. How many fans are on the internet that are obsessively, thinking about it, listening to these kind of podcasts, who are really the devoted hardcore fans who watch every single season, rewatch seasons, which while I don't currently watch Survivor the way I used to, I think I qualify in that group because I'm still thinking about these old seasons and all that. That's probably somewhere between like 10 and 100,000 people. Like that is a very small fraction of the Survivor audience at large. The other, so let's say that's like 1%, somewhere between 1 and like 8% of the viewership. That's 90% of the people are not doing any of that stuff. And those are the types of people that make up the majority of your audience and are also the types of people that come over and watch Deal or No Deal Island. Now, so let's say that somewhere between that, that pool of the internet fans, the ones of those people that watch Australian Survivor is what? Somewhere between 1 and 10% of those people. So Survivor or Australian Survivor is such a niche thing. So I would not have had any idea that David was a Survivor winner, that he was an experienced player. Will be interesting to know. Was something leaked to him? Did he get a question from production? Hey, does David look familiar to you? Does he
weird about it?
Something like that. Will is also extremely smart and intuitive. So the idea that he's kind of like, he's got to have been on a show based on some of the things. And there is a component that David he said in the episode, I've had to delete like 10 years of my life. So maybe he's a little awkward in some of the conversations where there are things that he just seems like he's hiding. So I don't know. I mean, there's no way that I could say that I would have some kind of suspicion that he was on a show, but game respects game. So
totally.
I don't know. Do you have thoughts on that?
My thoughts on that is Will is an excellent player. He is what we would call probably one of a very select echelon of individuals who have played at this level. There's a very few amount of people who've played at his level to his skill for as long as they have. And so for him to identify not only a winner, not just a player who's been there, but a winner and of the very specific small niche of Survivor Australia seems very far-fetched to me. But I will say that I loved how David played it off. He couldn't have done a better job. He said, "Is there even an Australia survivor? Don't know." But he outright said he's coming for Will. I appreciate how David is playing. I think he handled that situation very, very well.
I love that scene. I thought David had a really good week. Nice bounce back from last week where he lost
So,
MG, and he had a good. I mean, he has good confessionals and stuff like that. It's not like he's really like not doing well, but I thought this was a good bounce back for him.
yes.
This week had a good episode, and then the next part we got the Phillip Parvati confrontation, and that was,
Yes.
I mean, ugly, but it's good TV. It's interesting. It gives us stuff to talk about. We got Phillip's thoughts on that, so
Mhm.
that was also interesting. And then we started to get some of the CK and Letty conversation. So that was, I thought, the best like 5 minutes of the show was in the first 7 minutes of the show.
Mhm.
And then as we continue this time distribution, so 2 minutes of promos, 5 minutes of camp life. Now we're at the 7 minute mark. We go to the excursion. Do you
Mhm.
know how long we were at the excursion? And this includes commercials.
Was it 13 minutes? That's a guess. I have no idea.
Oh, it was 29 and a half minutes.
Oh my word. See, that's what makes it so hard. That's why you're feeling how you are, Jack, because if you're looking at any other survivor, they have the distribution that's more relative because that camp life conversation is critical to understanding what's going on. 29
This
minutes?
wasn't this
Hmm.
wasn't some kind of like groundbreaking challenge. They're just, I mean, look, it's harder than we see it on TV. Like Seychelle talked about kind of that fear of being up there and the heights and all that. But
Mhm.
like on TV, we're watching people jump off a platform and grab a ring. This is like one element of a Survivor relay challenge. Like where it's like, okay, we got to get this. Now we got to go complete this puzzle. Now we got to do that. And I typically really enjoy the excursions on this show. I think
Mhm.
there have been some really cool ones. I
Mhm.
didn't think this challenge was that compelling. And
Mhm.
to spend half of the episode, 29 and a half minutes,
Mhm.
that's half of an hour show on this challenge. And yes, there is the drama with CK, so that's part of it. That's interesting. But
Yes.
like, give us a condensed version of this. Like, we don't need to see the 29 and a half minutes. So that's my next critique.
The critique for me, which was the only, aside from the cliffhanger, was the only negative, is that I found the game to be very confusing, and
Yeah.
I had to watch. By the third time, I understood completely what was going on, but the rules were a little bit confusing to me. I was like, so there's three platforms, and so I think there was a couple of flaws in the game. In order to condense a game, the rules could have been a little bit more clear. So
It's like
CK.
they've done this a couple weeks in a row, or at least 2 out of the last 3 weeks. We've been on here and we're like, we didn't entirely understand how this works. And like, we host a podcast about this and watch it 3 times. So, how many people are watching this in Iowa? That's just like they put this on once a week and they don't think about it till the next week. They're
Yeah,
probably all confused by this. I just think that season one it was a lot more straightforward. Like
yeah, I
they
loved it.
one of the challenges I thought that was great was like where you had to follow the rope and see where that led you with each briefcase. Like something like
Yeah,
that.
I wonder
Yeah.
if the challenges teams changed, like those who built the excursion games. Like, is this like the behind the scene thing? I'm starting to question that because season one, the excursions were dynamic. It
Yeah.
felt a little
Really.
different. I mean, when we're in the waters with our poles that we had to put together and light the explosion, So, and my other thing is, okay, we're here in episode 6. I haven't seen a single personal offer. Like, what type of banker is this? Oh, miserly self. We want money. We want cash offers. We want to see what people are willing to do if you put a little small offer in the game. And so that's also a little like, okay, are we going to get to that? Or is the game completely changed now? I'm not sure. But
I
my little,
don't mind that omission. That was something I didn't love about season one was the personal offers. It's good for you guys because you can make some extra
yeah,
money.
yeah.
But as a viewer, there's a point where like, I would have been more interested to see how would have Dawson's end game played out if he hadn't taken the personal offer.
Yeah,
You know, he took $100,000, and we're really happy for Dawson, and it probably changed his life. But
for sure.
to me, it would have been more interesting to see if Dawson makes it past that. Now,
Mm.
you know, he had a pretty good chance of winning. He was in a really good spot.
Such a good spot. Yeah.
So I just didn't like that kind of idea of like, hey, we're gonna pay you to walk off the set and quit the show. Like, and that's something else that a lot of viewers were like, this seems like something that production can really manipulate too.
Yeah, they can totally manipulate that piece of it. And it just, I think adds a little dynamic piece to it. But instead of having that, because not every personal offer was shown season 1.
Right.
And so we have to remember that piece, but I haven't heard or seen anything.
Well, if they weren't, that's the thing. If they weren't showing everything, then they must not have felt that it was that interesting.
Totally.
Each one of those personal offers, they're losing a nice pop of money, and it's not even making it onto the show. They're like, screw that, we're not doing that.
Totally.
I think I would have liked to see that in the challenges. Like, I know that you guys had those in some of your challenges, and there's an opportunity where you could kind of like take the money or take safety. I think that's interesting. So would have liked to see that. So as I continue this rundown of what we're getting in this episode, all right, so 2 minutes promos, 5 minutes of camp life, 29 and a half minutes excursion. So now we're at the 36:30 mark, and we go back to camp one last time. And how long are we at camp here before we go to temple?
Before temple, 2 minutes.
Yeah, we were there for 2 minutes or 3 minutes and 25 seconds.
That's terrible because there's so much, and that was probably in real life. That's probably how much time they actually had to shower and get ready and have a conversation and go to temple. So that's probably not far fetched, but 3 minutes 25 is critical.
There's got to be enough content there for you to kind of, have some, could she do this? Or is Letty considering someone else maybe? Is there some suspense of like, maybe, I don't know if I want to actually put CK up because this whole thing happens, so maybe I'll put Dixon up. And even if that's not what she's going to do, like, I don't know. I would have found that a little more interesting. So now we go to Temple. We're at Temple, 39:55 mark. So Temple ends up taking over 21 minutes, and we don't even get an outcome. So Temple is 21 minutes of CK playing the game, and we did get some good stuff in there. We got some of the confrontational stuff. That stuff obviously adds to the story. It's compelling. It's interesting. But the actual game of Deal or No Deal Island, or Deal or No Deal, is pretty much that whole like third segment, third act of the show. So when you add up all this time, you've got 20 minutes of Temple, and then 29 and a half minutes of excursion. That's very close to 50 out of your 60 minutes is between the excursion and the temple. And if it were up to me, I'd rather see, I'd like a more of an equal distribution, but ultimately I'd rather see more time at camp than I understand the logistics of it, so I'm not saying like give us 40 minutes of camp and then 10 minutes of excursion, 10 minutes of temple, but there's got to be a better way that you could show us a little more of what's going on. And if this is going to be if you're going to have 21 minutes at the temple, give us an outcome. Don't give us a cliffhanger. So we got 21 minutes and then we still don't know how this game's going to play out.
Yeah. So it's like we have 1, 2, 3, 4. There's like 5 different critical segments that must be in every kind of episode. You must have the recap and what's to expect. You've got to have that. You've got to have a little bit of talk. You have to have the excursion. You have to have the post camp. You have to have the temple and game. Like there's a lot of things. So I see what you're saying about the distribution, and it's just I don't see how to make that happen. With all of the things you have to show, but maybe skimping down. I don't know. Did they show every? Yeah, they showed every single jump, didn't they? Did they show every single jump?
Well, no. Didn't Seychelle say that she did it? She jumped twice, and
no, every single outcome. Did they show every single outcome of every single jump? To the end?
I think so.
We
got a lot. We got a lot, and I will be honest, there were times where I was checking my phone during that. It was my eyes were not glued in all 3 times when I rewatched this excursion.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's tough. 60 minutes goes by so fast. Look at us. We've been chomping it up here for 64 minutes. It's just like, who are we to say? I wish we had more time. I love the content of how certain programs have a reality week, and you're there and you meet 3 times. One week is a challenge. The next week is, eliminations. The next week are voting. The next week is so like Big Brother. I didn't want to say, but I love how they have it split up over the amount of weeks, because you only get so much put in that you can put in one program, but the content, the connections, the conversations leading up to that event are so critical. But I guess NBC, maybe they don't have enough slots, but I don't know. It's your own streaming network here. Maybe figure out a way to split it up. And we want to see that. We want to know what's going on behind the scenes. We want the conversation. But anyway, yeah, I feel you, Jack.
Yeah, and I think that there was potential here. They had the ingredients to make this a really good episode too. Like, can you imagine if we don't have a cliffhanger and we cut a little bit of, we either trim a little bit of the temple time or the excursion or both. And let's not even factor in the part of adding camp time. Let's just say no cliffhanger. So we get a result.
I love that.
This episode goes from like, you could have had a really interesting scene at the start of the episode where maybe Seychelle saying, well, now we think CK is working with us and we've got this new coalition and our goal is to take them out one by one. And now it's going to turn on its head throughout the course of the episode. And we're either going to get now, as we look ahead to next week, she's either going to beat the banker, and in which case, like, I'm led to believe that Seychelle is who she's going to target, because I don't think Letty's safe. Dr. Will's safe, Phillip's safe, and she's blowing up their entire spot. Why would you do that unless you're going after them? But again, she's making a lot of decisions that aren't making a lot of sense. So, but we could have been led to think, okay, so there are 3 outcomes before this. She could either go after Seychelle, she could go after Dixon, or she's not going to win. So, and that I guess she could still take out Dixon. It doesn't look like that's going to be the case. It looks like it'll either be Seychelle goes out or CK goes out. And then your story for the entire episode that you can tell is either how CK just spiraled and she lost her game, or how she made this big swing and now momentum is swung and the pendulum swung the other way, and now Seychelle's out after she felt incredibly safe. And I think if either of those things happen in a 60-minute program, we're hopping on here and we're like, oh my gosh, what just happened? What? Oh my gosh, this is crazy. So much to discuss here. We loved it. It was great.
Yeah, you know what? I could see exactly where you're coming from. See, because you look at things from multiple avenues, like a production storyline avenue, like how do you get it in a nice, good package? I do believe they probably have some wonderful story editors that are trying to pull it together. But ultimately what you see to be the downfall was that cliffhanger. So that's tough. That was a tough decision that they made. But I really have high hopes for next week. Let's end the situation. What's the deal with CK? Are you staying? You're leaving? Like, let's tie that up. And let's continue to move on to, hopefully a very exciting episode. We love commentary. We love backstory. We want to hear what drove people to the decision. Excursion, get to the point unless it's a critical thing that changes the story, I guess, maybe. And that'd be the critique. So we'll see how it unfolds. I think it's going to be great still. I'm still very excited for the next episode.
And keep in mind that a week ago, we absolutely loved the episode. Thought it was like Dondi for season 2 was at an all-time high. Now I think we're at the low.
You're at the low. I didn't feel it like that. I had goods and positive. Well, for you said low. Yeah. So I
said low. I stand by it. I thought that this was a not great episode. And I mean, go back and listen to what I talked about last season. There were some cliffhangers. I didn't love those episodes. And then Traitors, there was a really weird episode last year on Traitors, which was like they passed the torch around and it was like a youth group, like youth retreat, like exercise of like trusting people and like, I'm gonna light this person's torch, and then the episode ends. And I thought it was a terrible episode. I'm gonna say it. This show can still be great. It can be a great season where you have one episode that's not good.
Listen, do not give Jack a cliffhanger or you're done because there's
There's a way
tie
you
it
can
up.
do the cliffhangers. There's a way to do it. Like, give the
Not a fan.
cliffhanger. If you want to lead into next week, give us an outcome. Give us a result.
Yeah.
Have someone
Tie
get
it up.
eliminated. Then we can have our exit press. That's another thing I like. I like it when we have exit press.
Mhm.
And then we go into next week, and it's like, oh my gosh, there's something starts to happen, and then it stops, and then we're like,
Oh.
whoa, okay,
Uh-huh.
we can't wait to see how this plays out.
Yes, exactly. They give us a little of that. I'm still tempted, but I haven't had my worst episode yet. I'm probably gonna have to get through all of them and then rank it because I'm just mental like that. But we'll see.
Well, Steph and I had a great time today. We're going to wrap things up. We're going to be back next week, and we've got a very special guest joining us next week. It's Mike Bloom from Parade Magazine, who also is one of the stars over at Rob Has a Podcast, covers a lot of reality TV. He does this as a full-time gig. He's got a pretty sweet job, and he does a
Yeah.
great job covering all these shows. Survivor, Big Brother, he covers Dondi, he's covering Traders, he's doing it all. So Mike is a fun little fact. Once upon a time, and I'm sure we'll touch on this next week, once upon a time I was a young 22, 23-year-old,
Ages
and I
ago.
want to start a podcast, and I reached out to Mario Lanza, host of the Survivor Historians podcast, and he's like, go ask Mike Bloom for help. He knows, like, I don't know how to do this stuff. Now Mario does. Mario's great at it. He's like, tell Mike Bloom that I sent you, reach out to him. And I'm like, wow, like the Mike Bloom from Rob's Podcast and Parade Magazine and Survivor Historians, and reached out to Mike. And Mike is, we got to give him credit because this show would not exist if it weren't for Mike. He
Look it. Thanks, Mike.
showed me all the, like, equipment, the software, all that stuff. So this is going to be a full circle moment because in 7 or 8 years of doing this podcast, it'll be the first time that we've actually collabed on something. So it'll be a lot of fun.
Nice. That is a really exciting time. I can't wait for that. I'll be excited to watch it as well.
Well, you're here for it.
Yeah,
You're
I want
on
to
with
watch
us.
it though. I want to watch it as a viewer as well. I can't wait for it to come out. You think I don't watch these things back? I want to hear it.
All right. She's at Dr._midwife on all of her social media, TikTok, Instagram. I'm at Jack Vita Show on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. We will be back next week, so make sure you guys are all subscribed to the Jack Vita Show here on YouTube and then also on our podcast feed, Jack Vita Show Entertainment. You can also follow Jack Vita Show Sports for your sports content and coverage. We'll be back next week with Mike Bloom, and until then, I'm Jack Vita alongside Stephanie Mitchell. Bring in the dancing lobsters.